In this lesson, you will learn about masks, how they work in Figma, why do you need them, and some additional things that you have to keep in mind if you don't want to mess with your files, with your illustrations when you're creating them using masks. Well, what is mask and where to find it? Figma is pretty simple, so if I create a frame or just anything, when I create a shape and I create another shape here, previously with the Boolean groups, when we select both shapes, we can click subtract selection, and this is how it will work. We can also click intersect and we will see only this part. But in this case, we will need to select both shapes. What if we have a little bit more shapes here? We select all of them and click intersect selection. We don't see anything, right? Masks work a little bit different. When you create a shape and you create another shape, you select the element that you want to be your layer, mask layer, that will hide everything, absolutely everything outside of the mask. And in the layer panel, everything that will be above the layer, above the mask layer, will be hidden by the mask. How does it work? Let's take this rectangle. This will be our mask. And to create the mask, here you see the icon, use as mask. You just press on that or you use Command Control M. You click and it creates the mask layer. So now only layers, only the elements that will be inside of the mask area will be shown to a user. Everything else is hidden outside. Even if I change the color of my frame to something different, as you can see, I see only these two shapes and only parts of them that are inside of the mask. Think about it as, let's imagine that we have this frame here. We have the layer inside, and there is here we have kind of a window, and everything. So I just created a frame. Okay, yeah, I just need to create these two guys to select. And think about mask as a window that you are creating for your layer. Let's imagine this is the window, this is the actual mask that we created, and let's imagine that here we have some text somewhere here, and then we take this mask layer, and this is our mask, this is our window, and we can see only through this window. This is how mask works in Figma, in Sketch, or in any other tool, in any other design tool. This is how masks usually work. So you have a window, and depending on where you put the mask, or let's imagine that you created a mask and it doesn't move, so you just created a window through which we can see. It means that only when we change the position of the elements on the frame, in the frame, only when those elements are, we can see them through the window. This is how the mask works. But instead of creating this window, Figma and other design tools provide you much easier option. They create you a mask. Mask itself, by default, it doesn't matter whether you add stroke to it, any like effects, they will not apply to mask itself. The only thing that will be seen on the mask, if you set stroke to like 30, then, so basically the shape of the mask makes sense, and the shape is created by the fill layer and stroke if they have color. Because if I turn right now off the fill layer, as you can see now, I don't see anything inside of the mask, because masks should have understanding of what to hide, and it should have the fill layer to actually to create this window through which you can see. The same with stroke. It should have the color so people can see it, and should be like, if it's outside, then you will see. If it will be center, you will see like half of it, and if it's inside, you won't see, because the bounding box itself for the mask that you created, it doesn't change its shape. Even if you added stroke, that goes inside. So let's remove that. Now, where to use masks? First of all, masks used a lot in graphic design when you need to create when you need to hide part of the element behind the mask, and you want to show only part of it to create some specific effect. Or it can be used in web design when you have sections, and those sections, let's imagine, were created not using auto layout or frames, where you can just clip content. You use mask to hide that part of the image or part of the text. And it used a lot in animations. If you already took my Motion UI Design Masterclass, you know that there is, in the practice module, there is a specific module dedicated to masks and how to use them. As you can see here, I have text. I have text that is hidden. And let's imagine that this text can go through the entire mask. Boom, and then it disappears. Or usually it's used a lot when you go to some websites and you see the animation is happening, that text appears from nowhere just like this. Wow. Usually the layer is just a little bit, the mask a little bit smaller. Now let's select it. Let's take from here, and the text will appear here. This is how it works in animation. So take a look at the Motion UI Design Masterclass. It has a full lesson for that in the practice module. When it comes to graphic design, you can achieve this effect like here. We have text here, and when the text is outside of our red circle, it's black. But when it's inside of the circle, the text becomes white. We don't change and use any blending modes here. We just use mask. And another example would be here, where we can use mask for everything for this, let's imagine, hero section. So I'll just switch it to mask, and then I will see only this layer inside of it. As you can see, everything disappeared. Like, why? Why so? Well, how masks work? Again, it's not just creates the window through which we can see, but this is the layer that will be used as mask, and we create another shape that we want to hide, and we create text that we want to hide, let's imagine, as well. This will be used as mask. So I go to mask. Everything that in the layers panel goes above the mask will be hidden. But if you want to see the text, but you want to hide part of the ellipse that we created, just select elements and group them together. In this case, the element will be hidden, and everything that is outside of the group that contains the mask, people will see that. So basically everything up to the parent element in the layers will be hidden by the mask that you are creating. Also keep in mind, really important thing when you're working with masks, because mask is just a mask. If you want, in Sketch and Adobe XD, it works a little bit differently. If you want to have different background behind the mask, you need to create another layer. You can duplicate the mask itself, switch off the mask itself, click again, and then you can change the color of it. So basically you're creating an additional shape. So if, like in this example, I have a mask And if I click mask, it will hide absolutely everything. So basically it will create a mask. But if I want to have a white, still white background there, then I need to duplicate this mask. Type it as BG section 1. This will be my white background here. Then I select mask, I click mask, and then I keep the mask here inside, and I still keep white background. But you can see it took absolutely everything. We don't have groups. We didn't group the elements together, so that's why the tags that we had here also disappeared. So what I can do to still have a text, I put the text outside of the mask area in the layers, select all other layers and press Command G. Now I have a group. Inside of this group I have a mask that hides the telephone from here. So now I can see the title. That's exactly what we achieved here. So now I can see the title. I still see the background. I have my phone that is hidden from the mask. So if I put it here, this is what I have. If I put it somewhere above, it's still hidden. And I'm not using frame here, it's just a group. So this is how masks work, and this is how you can use it in your designs. Super powerful feature, super powerful tool that allows you to achieve specific results when you need them, like this, for example, or when you need to animate something. Just one more thing that I want to show you, that not so long ago Figma added to the mask parameter, they added this additional panel, mask, alpha, vector, and luminance. How does it work? Let me explain to you. So let's remove this group. So now I just have a frame, and inside of this frame I have, let's remove even text, I have shape and I have the mask itself. I can move the shape and I will see only through that window. Remember about that, right? So if I change the background of our frame, it changes, but the window is still the same. It's still there. And I see only part of this ellipse here. Now, how this panel work? Alpha, vector, luminance. Well, alpha, use transparency. It means that if I change transparency of the fill layer to, let's imagine, 50, then everything that is being seen through this window, through the mask, will also change its transparency. When I go to vector, as you can see, I'm hovering, I use vector. It doesn't matter what transparency I have here, 10%, 100% for the fill layer, it doesn't matter. I will still see the shape, and that's it. So basically only the shape of the mask makes sense. And when I use luminance, use brightness. It means that when I change opacity, the opacity will change. But I can also change brightness. Do you remember when we talked about color, hue, saturation, brightness? When I change brightness, and if I put brightness really low, it almost hides the element. If I make it bigger, 100%, then I see fully the shape there. So it basically uses brightness in the mask. In most of the cases, you don't need to use them. You will use the mask by default. But in some cases, and I'll show you where, we will use some of these parameters to achieve specific results. This is a Pro Secrets course, so I want to show you all those parameters so you know how they work, so you understand how to work with them and how to use masks to achieve really great results. Even when you think that, wow, like how did he do that? Just because you understand how some parameters work, you understand, for example, where to apply, where to use them, and how to show them. Here I use a mask and the window is here, but I see somehow I see the shape. Why so? because boom, immediately the alpha works. And here, if I change to something like this, I'll show you it a little bit later so you understand how it works. And you can achieve really great effects using just mask, using just a simple shape, using effects that you already know how to use to achieve this kind of, reflection on the water. Let's imagine this is our sun, and then it has a reflection on water. And in addition to that, I will create another shape that will be below our mask. So I group the mask, I put this shape below, I change here to linear gradient, and for the linear gradient I will use different colors starting from like orange but a little bit more transparent. Then I'll go through this color and I'll create another one that will be blue somewhere here, full transparency somewhere, maybe not full, somewhere here. And I see the reflection, but I haven't used linear gradient here. I used mask tool and its shadow and some additional parameters like luminance. And this is what some people don't understand how it works. You will know that, and in the next modules we'll talk about, specifically in graphic design module, how to use it, how else you can use that to achieve really cool effects. Specifically for digital products, if you design and create digital products, if you sell them, I'll show you how to use this effect in some cases. See you in the next module where we finally will talk about auto layout. Incredible lesson, incredible part of Figma journey. Once you learn it, you'll become, oh my god, super efficient, because we will use auto layout a lot when we'll start working with web design. See you in the next lesson.